initiative campaigns. The two friends believed that the No on Prop 8 campaign had been marred by a failure to reach out to California's large minority populations and messaging that, while pleasing to the gay community, did little to move voters on the fence. But despite their expertise, they had not been brought in to help turn the polls around until late in the game. They had cut some last-minute ads that nudged the numbers up, but Christina could see by the way Chad was tensely raking his hand through his closely cropped brown hair that he didn't think it was going to be enough. Part of what made Chad such an effective political operative was his tendency to envision and plan for worst-case scenarios that never materialized. It meant he lived in a perpetually stressed-out world. Christina had a sunnier disposition and saw it as her role to provide Chad with some balance. But as more precincts came in, she could see that this time he was right to worry. Christina thought back to how hard it had been for Chad to come out 8 years earlier. She had known he was gay long before he worked up the nerve to tell her, and he had done so only after she gently nudged him one night as they sipped cocktails on the rooftop of the Standard Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. "Look around the room," she had asked. "What's your type?" The two were like brother and sister, completing one another's sentences, there to prop the other up when relationships foundered or other life crises struck. Now she ached for her friend. How could Chad not feel singled out and rejected? Not only had Californians passed Proposition 8 by a margin of 52% to 48%, but voters in Florida and Chad's home state of Arkansas had also passed anti-gay initiatives. "It feels," he told Christina, "like a triple gut punch." "That night we made a pact," Christina recalled. "We were going to look for a way to move this cause forward, and if we found it, we would take it." 10 days later, Chad and Christina found themselves sitting in the sun at the Beverly Hills Hotel Polo Lounge, where celebrities, agents, and studio dealmakers mingle under trellises laden with pink bougainvillea. Joining them at their outdoor patio table were movie director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. The Reiners were clients of Chad and Christina's firm, but they were much more than that, almost surrogate parents. They had invited the two young consultants to lunch to rally around Chad and commiserate about the election results. Chad had first met the movie director when Rob was doing research for his film The American President. As one of President Clinton's press aides, Chad had been tapped to show the director around the White House. Rob loved the movie business, but he was almost as famous for supporting progressive political causes and candidates as he was for movie classics like When Harry Met Sally and Stand By Me. Rob was impressed with Chad. He had vision and a confidence that belied his youth, and he seemed completely unfazed by Hollywood celebrity. The two had kept in touch, and eventually Rob had convinced Chad to move out to California to run his charitable Los Angeles-based Reiner Foundation and help direct his political giving. Together, they had saved 3,000 acres of wilderness space in the Santa Monica Mountains from development, and, with others, had battled oil companies in an attempt to pass a tax on extraction in order to pay for clean energy initiatives. It was Rob who had introduced Chad to Christina when he and his wife hired her to help with their I Am Your Child campaign. The goal was to convince voters to levy a tax on tobacco products that would pay for an ambitious statewide early childhood development program. Christina had gone into the communications business after working for the Los Angeles mayor, and with the tobacco companies pouring money into the race, Rob figured he could use all the help he could get. Outspent and against the odds, they managed to actually win the thing. The Reiners were fighters, whose worldview had been shaped by their own upbringing. Rob, a balding, bearded bear of a man whose booming voice announced his New York roots, had marched with his parents in the 1960s for civil rights and against the Vietnam War, while Michelle, a raven-haired former news photographer, was the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. Her mother had spent 2 harrowing years at Auschwitz, and growing up, the number the Nazis had tattooed on her arm was a daily reminder to Michelle of the very worst that can happen when a group of people is singled out for persecution. But what, the four friends wondered aloud as they lunched at the Polo Lounge, could be done now about the passage of Proposition 8 and the larger issue of gay rights? Most Americans did not realize that in more than half the states, a person could legally be fired, denied a room at an inn, or even an apartment just for being gay. No federal law prohibits such discrimination. Gays and lesbians could not openly serve in the military, and there were places in America where they were effectively banned from adopting children